Here we are, baby! After the clusterfuck that was Marvel's Avengers, be honest, even if you liked it, we all know Crystal was lacking. The second game of the Squeenix Marvel collaboration, Guardians of the Galaxy, has finally arrived. This time around, development was handed over to Eidos Montreal, and they ended up giving us a linear, single-player, action-adventure game where you can only play as Star-Lord. There is no open world, grindy upgrade mechanics, character stats, side missions, additional playable characters, nada, which ended up being the right choice. Guardians is an extremely focused journey with a tunnel vision on keeping the player interested and invested. The campaign is paced in such a way where there's little to no fat whatsoever, while simultaneously taking its time with the story itself. Speaking of which, the narrative is a fun yet very predictable space adventure. Some heist in the opening act goes wrong, which gets the team in a sticky situation. As a result of that, there's a hot blue lady who's hunting down the Guardians throughout the entire story. Meanwhile, there's this big cult that's taken over the galaxy, and only our heroes can stop it. It's beyond cookie cutter, but I'm honestly not bothered by that. Even when I could see a twist or a reveal coming from a mile away, I was still having a lot of fun, and that's all thanks to the writing as well as the voice cast, both of which come together to make almost every single character intriguing, from our main character Peter to even Mantis. A character who, to Pon Clementive's credit, I liked in the films, but couldn't give less of a fuck about when it came to the story. She's actually really cool in this game. She breathes so much life into the small amount of scenes she's in, despite being cursed with never-ending knowledge of all of time and space. Since this game isn't tied down to a 2-hour runtime, or a comic book run where it can course correct whenever it wants, we get a lot of time to know the Guardians very well before they even ponder about giving us their backstory. And when we do finally get there, it feels natural. Like a real-world friend just opened up about something from their past. Oh god, I just formed a parasocial relationship with a fucking raccoon! There's a dialogue system included that has no effect on the ending whatsoever, but it does change what can occur in each playthrough. Some seemingly small decision you make 20 minutes in can affect something 5 hours in. And it's a pretty cool mechanic that makes each and every playthrough unique. Again, there's only one ending with no variations whatsoever, so this really doesn't mean jack shit, but I'm glad it's there. The combat was surprisingly fast and fluid. I saw some people who got early copies say that it's button mashing and that the enemies feel like bullet sponges, which is wrong. Or at least I think so, because that's how opinions work. You're not supposed to solely rely on Star-Lord's guns or his guns. You have to shake it up depending on who you're dealing with. Some react more to guns, some react more to melee. I feel like we all know this, but this point just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention you have the rest of the team as your backup. Add the 20 skills you can obtain for the entire Guardians crew as well as the huddle system on top, and you can easily see why this game was so much fun. I do agree that some of the combat sections can drag on a bit, specifically towards the latter half of the game, but with all these mechanics at my fingertips, I really wasn't bothered half the time. Everything just feels so good, man. Sure, you could theoretically just spam square until the combat section is over, or you could just not do that. In addition to the standard platforming and combat, there's also 3 fully fledged flying sections, which, to be fair, is 3 more than I expected. If you've played something like Star Wars Squadrons, it controls extremely similar to that. But there's also one additional mission that's at the end of the first chapter that's far closer to Panzer Dragoon? This is something that I didn't know I wanted until I got it. I'm not really a fan of when games like to break the pace with something different, like with a stealth mission or a mini game, for example. So this is honestly the first time I could fully say that I wish that there was more distractions. The entire campaign, from start to finish, was probably in the ballpark of around 15 to 16 hours, which is a decently long game to say the least. One with lots of costumes and collectibles. So while I disappointingly didn't get to 100% completion before this video, I got pretty damn close, with the only thing I'm missing being a metric fuckton of collectibles and a couple combat trophies. I loved the amount of accessibility options for audio, visuals, and even difficulty, especially that last one, since you can customize everything to cater an experience specifically for you. Every modern game from here on out needs all of this. If I don't see it, it automatically gets banished to the Shadow Realm, aka the bargain bin at Walmart. No more Mr. Nice Guy! I apologize, I didn't mean to startle you, I just had to get into the negatives now. The main villain was mind-numbingly boring. He had this backstory involving a dead son, oh boo fucking who. He only had like 40 minutes of screen time in a 15-hour game. And even when he was on screen, he was overshadowed by literally everyone else. Even the guy in the background, even the fucking talking dog, especially the talking dog. He is best boy. I did have a decent amount of stuttering towards the middle of my playthrough, as well as a few general bugs. There was nothing game breaking, everything was easily fixed by reloading the checkpoint. However, the stuttering doesn't seem like a last gen problem, since even PC players have been having issues. It's really unfortunate that Squeenix still doesn't have that level of polish at launch that a company like Insomniac has, for instance. It's especially bothersome that you have to pay $60 to find that out, so it's not cyberpunk bad. I'm sure this can all be patched out, but it is a shame nonetheless. The biggest criticism I have against this game is that there's too much banter that you often miss the majority of it unless you stop what the fuck you're doing and let the characters finish. Which is a damn shame, especially when you're trying to hear your team's response to a dialogue choice you just made. It honestly feels like that fucking scene in Deadpool 2 and I hate it so much. That's all I really had on negatives. Surprise, surprise, Justice likes a superhero game. I am going to dip my toe into spoilers just so I can get this all off my chest right now so I don't have to worry about it forever. I highly, highly suggest that you skip to this time on screen if you don't want to know about Guardians of the Galaxy spoilers. I live on the most motorcycle-infested street in the fucking tri-state area. Two of the biggest oh shit moments I've ever had in a superhero game was one, the reveal that Drax killed Thanos off screen before the game even began, but then, later on, it's implied that Thanos is still out there. Plus, there was a boss fight with him in Drax's mind as he'd hallucinated his family's death, and the Soul Stone played a quintessential part of the main story? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling it. Thanos is being set up as the next big villain, or a villain at least. And number two is when Gamora just came clean about murdering Nebula. It's not an out-of-character moment or anything. I wouldn't know enough about Gamora to even say that in the first place. It's just a big enough twist that it makes her entire character arc make sense. Her mental state after the Sororicide, is that what it's really called? Her mental state and subsequent suicidal urges led her to get help and eventually seek a new environment amongst the Guardians. It's such good writing. I just want to kiss the chef. I really like the character of Nikki, as well as her dynamic with her mother, as well as Peter. Her inclusion, making Quill a father at first glance, was a really big change. One I was really on board with, until they did a switcheroo and made it to where she was an orphan taken in by Corel well after she separated from Peter. I'm gonna say this right now, so nobody can click this out of context and try to fucking clap my cheeks. Nikki being adopted isn't a problem. Not at all. I'm all for it. The reason I'm so pressed is that Eidos wants Peter to be a father figure while not carrying the weight of Nikki being his daughter. Adopted or blood doesn't matter. To the point where the ending makes a joke where like, oh, she's a member of the Guardians, but she occasionally calls Peter dad just to fuck with him. Huh? It feels like the same stupid issue Spider-Man had in the 2000s, and I'm fucking done with it. Just let him be a dad. I like Fing Fang Foom and Adam Warlock. Those are pretty cool. I don't know much about the comics. Same thing goes with Nikki. If like Nikki is in the comics and she's supposed to be an orphan or something, I don't fucking know. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's all I got. Spoilers over. It's rare to see a superhero game without an open world these days. Ironically, Guardians, which could have theoretically allowed players to explore all of space, decided to be linear, to focus on the Guardians themselves as well as their story. And thankfully, this approach was probably the best one Eidos could have taken. The narrative may be cliche, the main villain may be dog ass, the graphics and frame rate may both suffer sometimes even with the day one patch, the overlapping dialogue may feel like an unmoderated Discord call, but everything else is really good. There's more than enough substance here to make those 16 hours feel like they were well worth your time and money. Is it better than Avengers? You can bet your sweet cheeks it is. Is it better than Spider-Man? No, with an asterisk, because it's pretty close in my opinion. If you like buying $60 games, then definitely pick this one ASAP. I had a great time and can't wait to go get that platinum so I can show it off to my friends? The fuck am I talking about? Follow me on all of the socials at PizzaDad18. If you'd like to see me talk about more comic book games, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'll catch you guys next time. Later, kids. Have a good night. Fuck, I forgot to mention, this soundtrack was popping like a motherfucker, both the orchestral and the licensed. It was really good. So damn good. Such a good curation. Whoever did that shit, give him a raise. From me, because I said so. You gotta get a custom-made stamp that said because Pizza Dad said so and stamp it on their raise paper, because that's how jobs work. I'm fucking gone.
So plan A might be a bust.
That's an understatement.
Too bad somebody crashed the ship.
Peter Quill, you are no match for this glorious creature. Get behind me!
Oh, great.
All right, guys, plan B.